Armada Book 6 Chapter 6 The New Max Part 2 Back in Ellie's ship. Is he all right? Ellie asked. Gifka was there. Yes, the Marine was very careful. We will keep him in a time box. He is too close to danger, and the plotters are killing the civilians without remorse in their attempt to kill David. Ellie asked, What about the royal family? They are too vulnerable. Tom answered, There are Marines, Norsets, Trunties, and Max all over the palace. They are testing the food, water, and even air. They are reading all the staff and all the people around the palace. Any confirmed spy is beamed out into a time box. They would be safe for now. Ellie felt sad for David. Their first date ruined. Let's have dinner, she told Ellie. Ellie nodded. At the mess hall, Ghost Ellie appeared. Are you still angry at me? You know I could never get angry at you. I did want to kick you. Ellie did not get a lot of food. She intended to bring David back to the palace and have dinner with him at his room. I know. Ghost Ellie smiled, sat beside Ellie, and told Tom to beam her favorite ice cream. Ellie started, Gifka. Ellie, you know, David seemed to know what's happening. He was right on the money. Ghost Ellie answered, I have been with him more than you have, Ellie. He cannot see into the future. Otherwise, he could have seen the assassination attempts and the peace treaty. I think that he is just really smart to make the correct conclusions based on the information available to him. Ellie explained. He did tell me he sometimes sees things and dream about them. How then did he base his love for me? He does not have much on me. You might think it's a one-way love affair, but it's not. He saw into your feelings, his feelings. He felt you. Or so he thinks he felt you. Gifka explained. So my feelings are more defined to him than they are to me? Ellie asked. Ghost Ellie looked at her. Stop thinking about or rationalizing it. Your actions will carry your feelings toward him. You can bet on it. Things are moving very fast. I just hope the Armada will be here on time. Tom, I want to bring David back to his room at the palace. Set up a nice dinner table with some steak, greens, and wine. Ghost Ellie exclaimed. Exactly what I was thinking. Gifka added, Tom, put some flowers and candles. Don't forget the ice cream. Ghost Ellie nodded approval. Tom beamed David on his bed after the table was set up. Ellie stood beside the bed with Ghost Ellie. Hey, wake up, Ellie said, and David groaned. He opened his eyes, and the darkness disoriented him for a while. He realized he was in his room. As he stood, he glanced at a set-up table with candles lighting it. He approached it and smiled at Ellie. I know you're hungry. I took the liberty of setting up a quiet dinner with you in the safest place for you. David pulled the chair, and Ellie sat. Then he sat himself across her. Ellie realized Tom put 6 pieces of steak on a large plate beside a heated salad bowl fit for 5 people. This may be normal for 2 persons at the mess hall, but seemed too much for the moment. What are we having? Ellie poured the wine and gave David his glass. I took the liberty of choosing the wine and the food. She raised her glass. David was not sure, but he raised his and said, Thank you for saving my life 3 times in one day. To your long life. She took a sip. David drank half of the glass and, This wine is incredible. Where did you get this? Secret. Have some of the meat and salad. David got a piece of steak and sliced it. This meat is so soft and tasty. Where did you buy this? Secret. Ellie was not really hungry, so she got half of the smallest piece of the steaks and some greens. I never realized that you can still get this flaming stick. The flowers are pretty. Those are candles. A small wicker rope is inside a stick of wax. Tom actually made the candles using the formulators. I know that, but you cannot get these candles anywhere now. If it was 300 years ago, maybe you can buy them. Now, all houses have their own fusion generators. The candles actually are supposed to set the mood and for added security, so that people outside will not see a lighted room. I understand. I hope the mood would be a good one, favorable to me. No, it should be favorable to me. David smiled. How did you bring me home? With extreme difficulty. I don't know if it's your luck, but something fell on you, and you were knocked out cold. So there we were. First we had to stay alive. Then I had to sneak you back into the palace. Then set this all up for you. You did these things for me? So you now are in love with me? I told you I like you. But you keep getting yourself into these situations where you could die, and I cannot just let you die. Will you be here tomorrow to protect me? How about tonight? Who will protect me while I sleep? Why don't you call some palace guards to guard you? This palace has no guards. Anybody can just come in and out of the palace, except for the main house, and nobody will bother them. Ellie started to get the ice cream and put some into 2 small glass cups. I noticed that. Here, have some of this. This is my reward to you for being alive. David got some, and his face lit up. Ellie felt him happy and amazed. She could feel that David felt so happy to have met her. Ellie, I really appreciate this dinner you set up in my bedroom. I felt bad our first date was rudely interrupted by a few rockets, and you have not eaten dinner yet. You must be really hungry. She patted David's hand on the table. This is like a dream. I am really happy, Ellie. Thank you. You can feel me happy, right? David continued to eat and finish his steak. Then he got back to the ice cream. Ellie watched him eat. Yes. Just don't rape me in your head. David laughed but kept quiet. I cannot believe this. It was David's younger sister Sally. We were notified that the restaurant you went to was destroyed by rockets, and the city's staff has been looking all over the place for you, and all the time you were here? David motioned for her younger sister to approach him. Sally looks younger than her age, slim and taller than Ellie by an inch or so. She had curly black hair, which incidentally looks similar to David's curly black hair. Her eyes were the same blue as David's, and her pretty face was slimmer, not at all similar to David's. He stood and kissed her on the cheeks. This is my friend Ellie. She is my future wife. Ellie stood and embraced the sister. She felt Sally's hard, muscular arms and back. I am not his future wife. I am just a close friend. Then David told Sally to sit and taste the ice cream. As usual, Sally's face lit up and she got more ice cream from the glass container. I did not hear you talk when I approached your room from the hall. We were talking telepathically. She can also read my mind, but she does not let me read her mind. Nobody can do that unless you're royalty. I'm not royalty. Not yet. David added. Ellie countered, you can't say that. You have to tell the king that you're okay so they could stop searching for you. Why don't you go over to him and tell him? You can have the rest of this. He pointed to the ice cream. Okay. Make sure you don't touch that, okay? She went over to Ellie and embraced her before she ran out. She likes you. I felt it. You know your sister's weakness. Would you like to dance with me? Where's the music? You can listen to it from my head. Okay, but if I don't like it, can I change it? Ghost Ellie butted in. If you don't mind, of course. Ellie said as she smiled at David. Sure, come. David stood Ellie and held her right hand with his left, and with his right hand pulled her tight at the waist nearer to him. Not too tight, Mr. Romantic. She pushed back. Ellie could hear him humming a slow tune. Wait, I don't like the song. I have a song I play in my room before I sleep. Tom played the song, which was a classical song. David was amazed he could hear actual music from Ellie's head. Okay, I guess I can dance to that song. Tell me, Ellie, when I touch you, do you feel anything? She related the warm and calm breeze she felt earlier. She also felt calm at the reception. I also felt that warm breeze over my face and body, then the calm and contented feeling, like I feel complete and at peace, happy and content. I guess that's how it is between telepaths. But, you know, the contentment and happiness is really complete and total. You feel really alive but calm. It is a bit weird for me. Ellie explained. Me too, but I'm okay with it. And for the next 2 minutes they were quiet when suddenly Tom gave a warning. The pheromone level you are absorbing is increasing dangerously. What's pheromone? It's something a person gives off to attract another person. She actually made him think that she was giving the pheromone off to him to be consistent with what he heard as Tom's statement, making it appear to be her mind talking. I suppose I give it off to you too? It could happen both ways. She felt she is getting deeper into a situation she would not be comfortable with. They danced until the music, which was rather long, almost finished. David then looked at her and attempted to kiss her. She avoided his kiss by moving her head back, but not quite back enough that their lips touched, just touched. Ellie thought she would be annoyed, but she actually felt regret with a little weakness in her legs. When are you going to introduce her to your father? King Savadav stood by the door with the twins behind him. David shouted in her head his disappointment, and the music stopped. Ellie smiled. You cannot barge into my room like that, father. David told the king telepathically. Sorry, son. I just got too excited to meet your future wife. Blame it on Sally, who said so much about her. David looks like his father. That means the twins look like the mother, Ellie thought. Ellie kneeled and hello, my king. I'm Ellie, she said telepathically as she stood. The king was surprised. But at least she has good manners, he thought. Thank you. And no, I am not his future wife. I have to think about it first. Ellie said. The king introduced the other twin, Laysai, who was now seated at their table getting some ice cream with her twin. Ellie could only wave at her. Then the king held her hand and motioned her to sit. She sat on the bed since the 2 chairs by the table were now occupied by the twins. There were 2 chairs by the window, but getting them would take too long. Then the king held her 2 hands and tried to read her mind. I can't see into your mind, Ellie. This has never happened to me. He told her telepathically. I am sorry, but I cannot let you into my mind. Father, if I can't get in, you cannot get in also. Father, come over here and taste this. The king walked over to her and squeezed himself beside her on the same chair. Sally cut a piece of meat and gave it to her father, who opened his mouth. This is really good. He motioned for the wine glass. David, where did you get this meat and this wine? Sally started. This is the best thing here. She had a teaspoon with some ice cream on it and told her father to open his mouth. She put the ice cream in and David, this is incredible. What is this? They were all talking telepathically. David answered, I don't know. Ellie was the one who set up the table and got the food. The three continued to eat since they have not yet eaten, primarily because the kitchen was a disaster area and none of the orders they expected to be delivered made their way to the palace. The 3 orders they sent out to 3 different restaurants each met a terrain vehicle accident, which never happens because all their terrain vehicles are controlled by a central data center, unless the main data center told them to bump into each other. David went over to the window to get the 2 chairs. Ellie told Tom to beam in 3 more diamond self-heating plates with utensils, another bottle of wine and a bottle of brandy, on the floor beside the bed, unseen by David's family. Ellie dropped to her knees and got the plates, 2 wine glasses and the bottles. She walked over to the table and set the plates for her and David and for the king. She realized that it was good that Tom beamed 6 steaks. It turned out to be enough. Savadav started, Ellie, what is it that you do? I am into science. I love science. Ellie could feel the 4 of them trying to get into her mind. Sally's agreement is a way of making her open up. Really, what about? Space and the universe. But my father never let us travel. Savadav noted, Ellie, all these things we are eating now, these things do not exist in our planet. This meat is incredibly tasty and soft. This wine is incredible. And what do you call this? Ice cream. I have lived for a long time, and as king I have never tasted this. Let me give you something that you can only dream of. She opened the brandy. She drank the wine left in one of the glasses and poured brandy. This is fit for a king. She handed the glass to Savadav. Yes, this is really something you just dream of. He drank half of the glass, then gave the glass to David, who drank the remaining brandy. Absolutely so fine and very intoxicating. So are you going to marry my brother, or what? Sally asked. I told you I will think about it. I will give you my blessing. Not because of the wine or brandy, but because I felt my son so happy and smitten by you, and I feel you are attracted to him also. I told him I like him. Look, my king, I just met him this morning at the wedding, and our day did not really run very smoothly. I had 3 assassination attempts, and Ellie saved my life 3 times. Ellie could see that the king was troubled by the attempts on his son's life, and is trying to imagine how a slight woman could have saved his son, who is a ranking commander in the military and definitely bigger than her. So my son owes you 3 lives. It's okay. I would do this for any other person. The 4 were just looking at her, ganging up on her to open up. Look, guys, nothing in the universe can make me open up unless I allow it. So stop trying. She told them telepathically. Savadav countered, okay, I will just catch you when you are unaware. They all laugh. Ellie, please play another music. Something happy. Breezin'. Ellie told Tom. Tom played the instrumental song Ellie liked to listen to at her office, and the twins and the king were amazed they could actually hear music with real sound, crisp but soft, while they were eating good steak. After 2 more musical selections, one a piano solo rendition and a cello piece, they stopped eating. That was a good meal with great music fit for a king. Savadav said, I am glad you liked it. Can we have some more of this ice cream? Sally asked. Sure, when I see you again. And don't worry, my king, I will bring a box of brandy for you. So you are leaving? I thought you would protect me in my sleep. And tomorrow and the day after. Look, David, if you need me, I would be there. Okay, so I'll stay until you fall asleep. How's that? Where will you go? Savadav asked. Walk. They still couldn't get into her mind. Okay, I give up. Come on, Sally, Laysai, let's go. The twins embraced her, and Ellie embraced the king. I feel your goodness, Ellie. So sweet and calming. Sally said. Thank you, Sally. Laysai added. We tried to look for the end of the black cover you covered your mind with, and we could not reach where it ended or where it began. Usually, this means you have so much to cover. You must have so much experience. But atop this blackness is a gentle, cool, and pleasant feeling breeze that we feel against the whole of our bodies. I hope it will not take you too long to decide whether to marry my son David. It may take a bit of time, but I will tell him when I feel it's time. She embraced the king. The king nodded and they left. So will you sleep with me?
Hell no.
I can punch your face and put you to sleep. Ellie moved to the bed and laid on one side. She patted the other side of the bed. Come here, lay down here. David laid and Ellie snuggled into him, her face on his chest. They laid still for a while, quietly. This is the best day of my life. David told Ellie telepathically. Good, you did not die. No, it's because I met you. Shoo, just sleep. Let me feel you fall asleep. She did feel him rest, and she rested. Tom got a body and nudged Ellie. Ellie, wake up, Ghost Ellie whispered. Ellie realized she had fallen asleep. She quietly rolled over and beamed out. Back at the bridge. I must have fallen asleep listening to his heartbeat. Ghost Ellie chided her. I am so happy for you, Ellie. You have gone further than I planned. Ellie pushed her. I wanted to punch your face. Grr. Ellie shot at her. Then Ellie held her hand tight. Ghost Ellie smiled and kissed Ellie's cheeks. Tom, any update? None. I would suggest you take a rest. And that was exactly what she did, much to Ghost Ellie's disapproval. The next day at Ellie's bridge. Ellie, I don't think I should see David until the rayon problem is over. They ganged up on me, and it's a good thing they could not get in. But it was really annoying that they had to do this. They liked you a lot. What's important is that you won over David's family. Not all his family. Reek appeared. General, we have a problem. The Rosy Queen is in collusion with the Rayons. She wanted to remove the royal family so her son would be king. The Rayons agreed if she gives up 10 settlements. She is avoiding the palace lest the king read her mind. Gifka is now in a meeting with the Norsets to understand the extent of the network. Why do these kind of things always happen? Ellie exclaimed. Solis appeared. General, the Trunnies read the minds of the Rayon commanders of the raiding ships, and they believe the queen has colluded with their emperor to assassinate the king in exchange for 10 settlements. We have tagged all of the raiding ships, but now they seem to be just sitting there doing nothing. Ghost Ellie commented, That's what Reek reported. So it's confirmed then. Ellie said, I think they are just waiting for orders and for the queen's play to succeed. Reek said, I think we should get the king and his family. They might mess up and the killers might get through. Ellie said. Ghost Ellie added, we could beam them in time boxes and wait until this is over. They probably would not forgive me if I did this to them. Ghost Ellie exclaimed, so now we're in the middle of your family's relationship problem. Reek and Solis laughed. They're not my family. Ghost Ellie countered, not yet. Look, if these were just some royalty, you would put them in time boxes without batting an eyelid. Now you're considering what they would feel about it. There was silence. Gifka beams in, Ellie, I think you should go down and warn David already about the queen. He would have to investigate, and he would find out things and make his own conclusion. We have found the guy who ordered the hit at Seamus. Then we found the guy who told him to do so. This guy, his name is Eret. He is a cousin of the queen. A hologram of an elderly man appears. And that guy was ordered by the queen? Ellie asked. Gifka added, and the older son. And we found more in his head. We have his whole organization. The failure of the assassination attempts made them take more drastic steps to be on schedule with the Rayon assault. We also learned that an assault on the palace is being planned today or tomorrow. Ellie, do you think David can get the information out of these guys? Ellie asked. Ghost Ellie answered, he's good. Better than the king in these sort of things. Slightly better than a Mac. Solis added, we can bind their hands and beam them to David's office. Yes, but if I appear with them, he would ask how I got the two in custody. Ghost Ellie suggested, how about if you only send the top boss? Not his henchman. That way it would look easier to do since it's only one guy. Ellie nodded. Tom, where is David now? Ellie asked. He's in his bedroom sitting by the table you had dinner on. A hollow appeared. Gifka explained, you can beam at the hall here and walk the guy towards the room. Wouldn't this guy have any memory of your mind reading or his beaming in and out? Ellie asked. Reek answered, sir, he was beamed in and knocked out cold. All along he was never awake. We will beam something in him to wake him up on your cue. Okay, beam us here. Ellie, be serious this time. Tom beamed Ellie and Eret near the door to David's bedroom. Ellie shouted, David, come over here. David heard her voice and he ran. He was surprised to see his uncle bound and Ellie waking him. Uncle Eret, are you okay? He just managed to moan. Please read his mind, David. David held his uncle by the neck and remained quiet. Let's bring him inside the room. David told Ellie quietly. David sat his uncle on a chair and continued reading. He was quiet and Ellie could see that information is flowing into David like through a wild fire hose. Ellie sat down by the table. As Ellie looked down, she saw that David had been writing. "Tom, translate this for me, please. It's addressed to the king. He is telling the king that the council is making a terrible mistake, that he intends to bring the twins to safety because he expects an incredible upheaval in their world within the next few weeks. He would be back to defend the kingdom, but he has to do this first." Ellie moved her gaze to David, and he was still quiet. She noticed tears running down his cheeks. Eric was struggling, but David was quiet. Ghost Ellie Mine talked to Ellie. David just reached out to Sally and told her to bring his father and Lacey over. "I almost cried when I saw what he saw. But then the Macs have shown me even higher levels of evil and in larger numbers, so these guys' evilness are mid-range." Ellie pointed to the paper in front of her, and Tom told Ghost Ellie what David wrote. Ghost Ellie went back to reading David's mind. After 30 minutes, David has yet to finish. Ellie was wondering how much David is getting. Then the king and the twins walked in, almost running. The king went over to David and held Eric's shoulders. Now the king was as quiet as David. Ellie walked over to the twins and embraced each of them. The letter was open, and they read it. Ellie heard the king telepathically order Sally to close the door and Lacey to open the armory. As Sally locked the doors, Lacey opened one at the far end of the room. It opened to a walk-in cabinet full of weapons. She got an armor suit and threw it to Sally. Then she got one for herself. The two undressed and put the body armor on. Then they put another suit consisting of a long, flowing beige trench coat. David was done now, and he went over to put his body armor on and wear the same beige trench coat. He got a short semi-auto that looked like a P90 and two pistols that he attached to his left and right side. Sally walked beside Ellie and flopped an automatic weapon in front of her with 3 magazines. "This is yours. I like this Tri-Burst 21, she told Ellie. Ellie looked at the weapon on the table, which is similar to a shortened version of an old AK-47, but with a higher caliber 40mm, 30-shot magazine. Lacey then dropped a pistol belt with 2 pistols in front of Ellie. Ellie looked at the pistols, and they have a loaded 50mm magazine. David approached the twins and held their hands. Then the 3 remained quiet. After a few minutes, Ellie saw the king walk over to the armory, donned a body armor, and got the same beige trench coat. He got himself a small submachine gun and 2 pistols. He walked over to the table and flopped 2 sidearms that clips on their body armor. Then he walked over to Eric and hit him hard in the head with his gun. Ghost Ellie told Ellie, "The guy is dead." Ellie went over to the armory and looked for grenades, or something similar to a grenade. Tom told her the red canisters are their form of grenades. Just pull the pin with a string, and you have 8 seconds before it blows. She got 6, and she gave 2 each to the twins. Sally looked at Savadav. "Father, 10 guys are moving up the stairs from the left of the corridor. 3 minutes. Savadav looked at David. "David, open the chute." David opened a cabinet that revealed a floor opening with a pole. "Slide down," David told Sally. Then he strode to the bedroom door and attached 2 grenades to booby-trap the door. Ellie stopped them. "Wait, let me." She slugs the rifle across her chest and armed 2 grenades. As she slid slowly holding the pole, Tom was telling her 10 men are at the bottom waiting. "Open the door by beaming them out, then I will throw 1 grenade, then another one, then put a time warp field at the bottom, so the explosion will not damage the bottom of this chute." In 15 seconds, Tom removed the time warp and Ellie slid down. When Ellie got out of the cabinet chute, she saw the room was a mess of dead bodies. She realized each of the canisters packs twice the punch of a normal anti-personnel grenade. Ellie shot at some of the soldiers who moved. "Tom, beam the door back and put them on the wall over there." Sally slid down, then Lacey. The twins did not seem to be horrified with the dead and mangled bodies. David and the king slid down. "Move over to the wall," Ellie told them. Sally exclaimed, 6 men are running from the left and 10 from the right along the corridor. David exclaimed, "The window." Ellie jumped first, then Sally, then Lacey. They moved and sat near the wall. David jumped and landed in front of Lacey. Then the king jumped. "The clearest part of the palace would be that wall," Sally said. Ghost Ellie countered, "There's an APC and several armed men at the end of the wall. Go around the building." "No, this way." She gave them no chance to argue as she moved around the building. As they turned, they hid beside a stair that goes to a basement. They could see several men and an APC move from the other end of the wall. Ghost Ellie explained, "Our best bet would be to commandeer that APC and drive out of the palace. Let the escort move into the palace, then we go around." Ghost Ellie decided to talk like Ellie, so Ellie wouldn't have to repeat to the other telepaths since they can hear her thoughts anyway. Ellie saw the last soldier go in the palace. As she ran, she told the Marines to kill all those in the APC and those that may be following them. The APC backdoor was open, so she shot inside, emptying a mag. She waved to David and got inside the APC. She started to pull the bodies and push them out of the APC. After a few seconds, the twins got in to help her. David then started moving the bodies out and told Sally to drive. The king got in and David immediately closed the APC backdoor. Sally sat on the driver's chair and drove straight out of the palace. She passed hundreds of soldiers moving into the palace with several APCs and several large armored vehicles similar to tanks. After a few minutes, the king told her to drive to a warehouse building at an address he gave. It was at the outskirts of the city. Inside the warehouse, the king got out of the APC. David and the twins followed. As Ellie was getting out, Tom quarter-mile perimeter. Ellie noted, "Nice driving, Sally." Sally smiled and said, "It seems you're the only one doing the killing." Savadev added, "Nice work, Ellie. You were very brave in killing those APC personnel, and you came out with the APC takeover plans rather quickly." "Our ticket out," Ellie said. "Well done, Ellie. You fought like you have a lot of experience in assault and weapons use," David said. Ellie shifted, "So what now? Where do we go from here?" Savadev walked to a door and motioned the group to follow. After they got in, David placed a grenade booby trap by the door. They found themselves at the top of a staircase. The group went down through the stairwell at regular clip. Ellie estimated that they have gone 5 floors down. It was an old subway from more than 100 years ago. They went into a subway single car and the king started it. "I used to play here when I was younger," he told Ellie telepathically. "Where does it go?" Ellie asked Savadev. "It ends outside the palace city near a small town by a river. From there we walk to this farm where an old shuttle is sitting in a barn." Then he remembered being with David's mother, how they would escape the palace and get lost in one of the planets around their home world. They would get lost for days and come back the same way with nobody ever finding out how they did it. Sally punched Savadev. "Father, you're so gross." David and Lacey laughed. Ellie laughed as she moved from the front to their back. She was inspecting the train car. "Ellie, thanks," David said. "What for?" "If you hadn't told me to read his mind, I wouldn't have known about the assault on the palace. Then you let us out to safety. It's really just that I do not want you to get killed." It was a short trip, and they found themselves at the end of the line, literally. They got out, and the king led them through a building basement, then another building. "The shuttle is inside that warehouse," the king said. When they got in, the king removed the tarp cover, and they saw the shuttle was only fit for 2. 2 other persons could squeeze at the back of the chairs and sit on the floor facing each other. Then they heard people shouting and running. Tom told Ellie to position herself by the window and fire at 11 o'clock. She did, and she got 2. Tom then told her to move to the main door and fire at 3 o'clock. She ran and got the 2. Tom then told her those were forward scouts and that 2 teams will reach their position in 3 minutes. Tom advised her not to take the shuttle because her weight would be a problem. By the time Ellie reached David, the king has started the shuttle and the twins were squeezing themselves at the back. "Come on, sit on my lap," David said. "No, I will cover your exit. Besides, my weight will compromise the shuttle. Leave now." Ellie ran towards the back of the warehouse, then outside towards a tree. The shuttle was flying now, and David could see Ellie in a crouching position, aiming at 3 men running towards her, but with firearms aimed at the shuttle. She opened fire and downed 2. Then she stood and ran towards the men, opened fire again and downed the 3rd. Then she ran towards the trees. Sally exclaimed, "I could still feel her mind. She's running. We're too far. I can't feel her anymore." Savadev commented, "She's very brave. A real warrior. She is. I hope she gets to safety," David said. Ghost Ellie could feel David's anguish on the possibility of losing Ellie. Back at Ellie's bridge. "That was exciting," Reek exclaimed. "I agree. I never realized how much I missed the running and the shooting. I think we should have this often in Hollow." Gifka walked in. "Hi, Ellie. You seem to have had so much fun. Anyway, we will hear from Trin tomorrow." "Ellie, all the royalty have been tagged, including the enemy royalty. We have identified all the enemy players and those sitting on the wall. We have also tagged their top to mid-level military officers. It appears that the Max are considered out of the conflict, and the Max also behave as if they are outsiders, mere spectators to the changing power structure." Ghost Ellie appeared. "You cannot believe this, but the king actually believes the Rayons will keep their word to keep the peace even after the reading. They are headed to a planet where they have a loyal base, and that David will take over the Royal Space Command. I told Tom to cloak David's ship until they reach orbit just before they land." "Good thinking, Ellie. Maybe that's the idea we need." Gifka asked, "What? The cloaking?" Reek explained, "No. impose to the Rayons that they should keep their word or else. We still would have to remove all the military capabilities, Gifka said. Ghost Ellie countered, but we cannot just leave David and his family to resolve their differences. I think the king will not be too forgiving. After all, they tried to kill his whole family. A lot of people would die by the king's hand. Reek said, I see it that way too. When I read his mind the first time, I saw a very kind, gentle, and forgiving man, very calm and always laughing. But when he killed Eret, I saw a calm but vengeful killer. He did not feel anything when he killed the man. He will not feel anything when he kills his enemies. I saw that too, and I agree. It's like a mind block occurs at the very moment he kills. Ghost Ellie agreed. Reek exclaimed, we can tell the Rayons to send an emissary to the queen to tell her that the Rayons are pulling out and will not be available for a long time. Ghost Ellie agreed, yes, then the problem now is isolated to your family, Ellie. I am not part of the family. They laughed. Ellie, I would suggest you continue your meeting at the mess hall. Ellie realized she is now so hungry. Very good, Tom. Come on, guys, let's go. Solis appeared at the mess hall. General, the drones 150 MLY from the Rayon Galaxy reported that around 5,000 ships are moving to our direction. They will reach our outer sphere in 3 weeks. Solis reported after giving a crisp salute. Solis continued, a lot of the defense ships are moving to a certain planet called Shanos to support the king. This is where the king and his party are probably headed to. Their total armada number, 6,800 ships. The largest is as large as a Vinta. Solis told Tom to get her some ice cream. Reek observed, you know, I have been watching their personnel. Actually, my officers and I went over to their ships to nosy around, and I think that next to Lashine's people, these people are very well trained, very brave, and their implants make them an efficient force on the battlefield. The Armada could benefit from their experience. Gifka agreed. That was actually the earlier observation we had that Captain Reek was very kind enough to verify for our people. I also think that they train their civilians well. The twins looked adept at handling automatic weapons. Ellie said as she started with her pasta and had Tom beam a bottle of white wine. Ghost Ellie got the ice cream that appeared in front of her, and they are. All of their people, including the Max, actually go through a military draft system for 5 years for those between the ages of 18 to 25 years old. David and the twins went through this also. Gifka observed, a highly militarized society, but with a palace capital planet devoid of weapons. With some exceptions, of course. The irony is like the king's personality. Ellie seemed to agree. The next day, Trend appeared as a hologram at the bridge. Captain Solis and Captain Reek beams in. Gifka and Ghost Ellie were already there. So what's up with the Rayon's commander, Trend? Trend saluted and, General, we have started normal tagging, infiltration, and bombing operations. We have started with their ships. Several thousands have mobilized to fly over to your position, and we have placed bombs on their engines. Tagging will continue until they are out of range. We have also started tagging the royalty. Our main problem would be the slaves. We have to return the 2 enslaved species back to their planets, remove the Rayon forces in their planets, and remove all their weapons-building capabilities. Solis reported for Trend's benefit what has transpired so far at their end. We would have to tell the Rayons to send a messenger to the Queen and tell her that they are dropping out of their planned invasion and will abide by the peace treaty. Gifka noted, it's going to be a lot of work for those 2 species enslaved by the Rayons. Trend observed, we would have to wait for the Armada ships to help out. We cannot start anything without them, although we have to be prepared to beam their leaders out just in case. I agree, but the way things are developing in the battlefield, the Armada would have enough time to do the work on the side of the Rayons. Ellie said. Ghost Ellie countered, but there would be an immediate war at David's side. Their forces are now consolidating at planet Shanos. The Queen's forces are also consolidating at the Palace planet. The King has issued an ultimatum last night, and the Queen rejected it. She expects to hold out and was hoping the Rayon fleet would arrive on time. Solis reported, I was at the King's strategy meeting, and they are planning a slow kill, and this will give the Rayons time to come over. Their timetable is a month before they attack. David suggested an assassination operation. They are very good at military operations, but they execute rather slow. Reek chipped in, we would be ending the war at the Rayon side in a week. Another week for the refugee operations, and another week for cleanup. Ghost Ellie observed, you would be done with the enemy before they even start the war. Ellie concluded, then we should not let them start the war in the first place. Once the Queen sees the Rayons have dropped her, she would see her losing position. But then knowing the King, she would see that she and her leaders would be executed. So she will try to fight until the end. Trend added, The Rayons would notify her within 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks until the king launches his attack to negotiate the peace. I believe the king will agree to a limited execution, but not total absolution. Ellie asked the group, do we do a Munoan or a Marinti? Trend answered, a Munoan will do. I would not suggest we do a Marinti. Let's just let them be. I think we should have our people around the king and his leaders. They might go for an earlier timetable. If they do this, we would have to delay their timetable. Ellie observed. Ghost Ellie suggested, we can tell David through his dreams. Ellie was surprised. We can do that? How? Ghost Ellie moved nearer. You put your lips beside his ear and shout. She laughs. Or you can appear like a hazy hologram, like a ghost, and tell him. But he will think I'm dead. She did not continue. The group looked at Ellie. Ghost Ellie thought for a while. I guess that's not a very good idea. Gifka broke the silence. We can disrupt their operations. I can think of 1,000 ways to do this. That will work. Ellie said. Julian appeared. General, David is planning a commando type of operation on the palace. They intend to leave in a week. Solis noted, Gifka, you should get creative right away. Gifka nodded. If I may, General, I think if you appear before the end of the week, David would be prevented from launching anything. Trend said. You too, Trend? I am disappointed with you. The group laughed. She is starting to think everybody is in on the game of setting her up. Ghost Ellie added, that may work, and by that time the Armada is here already and the Rayons are done with. You will be the focus of the operations. The movie star in a running soap opera. After a few days, you spearhead the negotiations for the king to spare his enemies. You are all setting me up? Nobody reacted. Gifka smiled and, I think the plan is sound and we would be doing this anyway. Your role is really to soften the king and David to become more forgiving, or at least get their take on the plans. With your double, of course. Thank you, Gifka, for your support. Ghost Ellie said. Ellie countered, okay, but not now. Trend, I want to go over your plans and activities before you head over to General Man. Let's take the hops and see what's up at the Rayon side of the battlefield. Of course, General.